Hello, in this video, we'll review the procure-to-pay process and why a well-developed procure-to-pay process is so important in terms of preventing fraud and providing smooth purchasing and accounting processes. Did you know that one of the largest expenses most companies have is when they purchase products for resale? That is why merchandising companies that purchase goods for resale must have good accounting processes in place to ensure that only an authorized person places the order, that vendors are pre-approved, and that the goods are received by someone else than the person who ordered, and that the accounting department compares the order to the receiving document and with the invoice from the vendor. The entire process from ordering to paying the invoice is called the procure-to-pay or P2P process. And the matching of the order to the receiver to the invoice is the three-way match. A large company usually has a centralized purchasing department that is responsible for locating suppliers, obtaining price quotations, negotiating credit terms, and placing orders. It's a big operation. In small firms, purchasing activities are often handled by a single individual, usually the owner or manager. Most merchandising companies buy on terms or open account arrangements. That means that they receive the goods and the invoice, but don't have to pay until later, often 30 days. This is an area where you really have to pay attention because purchasing is one of the areas where fraud and theft can easily occur. For instance, that person who purchases goods takes some for themselves or runs a scheme with the vendor whereby the vendor bills more than was received or at a higher price and provides a kickback to the purchaser. That is why auditors focus on this area, and companies should protect themselves from fraud and theft by having different employees assigned to different parts of the process. And there should always be a good review process. Even big companies aren't immune to fraud in this area. As you can see from the case of Rite Aid, where the Vice President of Operations, Timothy Foster, colluded with a vendor to defraud Rite Aid out of $11 million. Foster was in charge of surplus inventory and sold the equipment to Findling for a low price when the equipment really was being resold at a much higher price. Foster received a kickback from Findling in that scheme. The procure-to-pay or P2P process starts with a need to order a product. In large companies, the inventory management systems might show that product inventory is low for an item and the product needs to be replenished. In small companies, the owner may review the warehouse inventory and decide that a product needs to be reordered. Or the companies identify that it wants to sell a new product that it has not sold before. In either case, the company identifies the need and now must formally issue a purchase requisition that details the items to be ordered. It must be signed by someone who is authorized to approve requests for merchandise. After all, if the incorrect orders are placed, it could be a very costly mistake for the company. The purchase requisition is then submitted to the purchasing department, which is tasked with reviewing the items that need to be ordered and identifying a vendor to place the order with. A large company might publish an RFP or request for proposal, which means that they ask multiple vendors to submit their best offer to the company. In most cases, companies will just identify a few possible vendors and obtain a bid or place the order with an established vendor. If it is a new vendor, pricing needs to be agreed upon and payment terms are negotiated. In addition, the company might want to closely review the vendor's reputation to ensure that they're a good vendor that the company wants to be associated with. Once these steps are completed, a purchase order can be issued to the vendor, but must be signed by an authorized employee. The purchase order protects both the buyer and the seller. The purchasing company does not want to have to pay for purchases that are not authorized. And the selling company does not want the risk of not collecting undelivered merchandise. The selling company should insist on a purchase order before delivering merchandise. What is the next step in the P2P process? That's right. The company waits for the product to arrive. In some cases, that can be a long time. And if that is the case, the company needs to manage its inventory effectively to not run out of inventory. Many companies establish what is called reordering points. So let's say you sell the product on average 10 times a month, and it takes 3 months from placing the order to receiving the products. You likely want to place the order when you have 40 items of this product left. So keep in mind that your sales quantity can vary from 1 month to the next. The customer demand could suddenly increase or decrease, and it could take longer to receive the order from the vendor. So all these variations could influence how early you place the order before you actually need the products. Once the company receives the product, a receiving report is prepared to show the quantity and condition of the goods received. The receiving report should be prepared by the receiving or shipping department, and neither the person who requested the product nor the person who placed the order should be involved in the receiving process. The purchasing department receives a copy of the receiving report and compares it to the purchase order. If there is a problem, the purchasing department will contact the vendor to resolve the problem. The accounting department receives the invoice from the vendor and compares the invoice to the purchase order and receiving report, checks the quantities, prices, and amount on the invoice, and then records the purchase as soon as the invoice is verified. The payment is then scheduled close to the due date of the invoice.